It is my pleasure to introduce the lovely, beautiful Karine Nissim. She's a tech founder, entrepreneur, writer, speaker, and visionary behind multiple ventures, including DayNew, and the co-founder of DogVacay, which later merged with Rover. Karine's journey is not only about building companies, it's about using business as a vehicle for purpose and resilience. After creating DogVacay and guiding its growth into a major player in peer-to-peer marketplaces, she experienced a life-changing personal loss. Instead of retreating, she pivoted and founded New Day, a platform blending AI, community, and emotional roadmaps for people navigating grief, trauma, and change. Today, she will share what it takes to build with intention, lead through adversity, and grow ventures that matter just as much for people as for profit. Please join me in welcoming Karine Nissim.
Thank you so much, Emily, and thank you all for showing up on a Saturday. I only did this for her. I'm usually driving around to basketball games and lots of gymnastics tournaments, but I am super thrilled to be with you, and it's a real testament to your character for wanting to invest in yourself and wanting to invest in this community. So thank you. So the title of my speech is Move Forward Faster, which is a little tongue-in-cheek. But if any of you have experienced a difficult time in your life, you know that your instinct is to want to not feel bad anymore and to not feel bad as quickly as possible. And there is a truth to that. It's a self-preservation technique, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about my story and how I kind of figured out how to optimize healing and become my own hero. And more than anything, I think it's so important to be connected with like-minded people. I would love to stay in touch with you. I'm very active on Instagram, so please find me at Karine Dream. And I have some goodies to share with you too, so I'll share that in a little bit. So what is the formula for healing? It's a 4-part formula. You see, self-care is a word we throw around a lot. What does it actually mean? It means taking the time to take care of yourself, however that looks. That could be physical, emotional, social, spiritual, organizational, which is extremely important. Process. Everyone tells you to process your pain, to process what you're going through, but they don't really tell you what that actually looks like. Well, it could look a lot of different ways. People say therapy a lot, but therapy isn't always the most accessible. And you have a lot of tools inside of you to actually process and develop and move through the challenges that come up for you. And there's the idea of acceptance, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about on a later slide. And lastly, it's purpose. That's also a big buzzword, and we're going to come to that too. What I want to talk about briefly is my personal business experience. I started as an actress and a filmmaker, and then my first business on my own, though growing up in an entrepreneurial family, was putting together actors, writers, and directors together in a workshop format. And then I met my late husband, and we went through another business that we created that failed miserably. The reason being too many cooks in the kitchen. And then the next business we launched kind of blew up so fast at the same time of getting married, getting pregnant, moving homes. We launched this business called DogVacay. At the time that Airbnb was basically raising $100 million against a $1 billion valuation, we came out as the Airbnb for pets. And we kind of made our mark on the LA tech startup scene, raised about $50 million in funding, and then went on to merge with our competitor called Rover, which later went public and then got bought out again by Blackstone. And then I founded another company called DayNew in a very different way. I encourage all of you to download the app DayNew. You can do it on your phone through the App Store. And when you do, you'll see that it's a robust platform to help you navigate whatever challenges come your way. If you are in the pursuit of personal growth or managing a loss or an illness or a divorce or a career pivot, DayNew has an amazing set of features that can help you. And one of them is journaling prompts. They're therapy-based questions that allow you to do that processing that I spoke about earlier. And so a question that I like to ask a lot is, what was your biggest hit, right? If you take a deep breath with me for a second, and you think about a time in your life where you were brought to your knees. Maybe now it doesn't feel so big. Maybe it's when somebody said something mean to you, or you broke up with somebody. But there have been times in your life where your path has been a little bit shaky, right? And you think about how that time impacted you. It almost always certainly does. With change comes growth, right? And how often you actually ask the question of where you want to go through it, right? How you want to move through it in order to become the next best version of yourself. So with my app, that is the framework that I wish to create and to meet you on your journey as you move forward. My background is probably not dissimilar to many of the people in this room. I'm an Israeli-American immigrant. My parents were entrepreneurs. My grandparents were persecuted in Iran for being Jewish and moved to Israel when they were children. My mom was then moved to Italy as a child. My father raised in Israel. And then when they had me, they moved to America. I grew up at a dinner table where businesses were constantly being discussed. So we talk a lot about business, but we don't talk about where we develop the mindset for it, right? And sometimes it comes from parental influence, sometimes it comes from partner influence, sometimes from school, and sometimes just from a fire inside of you, right? When I met my husband, Aaron, I was very much in the film world, and he was very much in love with his new puppy. And he would walk around the house moping about his job as a business consultant and how he wanted to become a dog trainer. And I was like, over my dead body, am I going to marry a dog trainer? I need somebody who's like, not going to have dogs around all the time. And yet there was something there that was so earnest about his passion and love for dogs that when I was working my production job, I got an idea to create a Yelp listing for him and call it Aaron Dog Boarding. And what happened a few months later was our first customer, and we made $500 that weekend. And then more and more. And I saw very quickly that there was a discrepancy with how much we could offer the service of watching somebody's puppy in our home and how much our service was needed. And that was something I never saw in my parents' businesses because my parents worked in jewelry and diamonds, high luxury goods. So there was never enough demand. So I got very excited and I said, this is a business. This is a business. But he was trying to get into venture capital, and he understood very quickly and was very much of the mindset of how to scale businesses. That was sexy to him. And so what happened was we started as a mom and pop shop type of small business. I was able to quit my crappy production job and watch dogs from home and write screenplays. And he ultimately was able to walk away from his consulting gig and say, there's something here and I want to start pitching it. And we came up with a presentation and we started pitching. We got into an incubator. And then we became this PR darling, right? Young couple in a recession, makes money watching dogs, launches national, launches international. But what really snowballed from that were many business mistakes, many. And a lot of huge wins, namely that we started our family. We had 3 kids in 3 years and had this kind of sparkly moment. And then when we merged with our competitor, Rover, we decided to move back to Miami, where I'm from, and raise our kids here. And about less than a year into the pandemic, my husband was out on the water, and there was an accident, and he never came home. And it was the hardest, most intense trauma I could ever even imagine. And telling my children that their father died broke me. And there was a moment in the week after where I felt myself flying out of my body and looking down and saying, how am I going to make the best of this? And it was like the answers just came flooding to me. Well, obviously, I need to model grieving. I need to model getting up again. I need to model working hard. I need to model the relentless pursuit of love and joy and pleasure and fun. And we came up with this family mantra. We have love, we have each other, we have our memories, and nothing is going to get in the way of having fun. So I started to, my artistic soul knew that this depth of feeling was a transition. And I wanted to document it for myself. When I left Hollywood, I had really seen the discrepancy between people wanting to have their material read and produced and not having an audience for it. And at the same time, Instagram had emerged with this story feature. And I had, great connections. And I remarked at how strange it was that people wanted to watch what we call in the film industry shoe leather. People walking from here to here, right? It would be a rap star behind, backstage just walking, right? And that was being filmed and shared. And so I started to document my life well before my husband passed, and really just our life in this kind of like idyllic bubble during the pandemic here. Little kids playing in the pool, going out on the boat, swimming in the ocean. And then what happened was that became my lifeline to how I curated my own experience of healing. I started to write at 2, 3 in the morning when I couldn't sleep, whatever I was feeling, and put it out there to not that very many followers. And then I started to get messages, countless messages. You're changing my life. You're inspiring me. You have no idea how much your words are helping me. And I didn't understand why. I didn't get it. How is my shit show helping you? And what I started to understand is I was putting words to deep, dark feelings. When I was never really taught how to properly grieve, I didn't know it was something I was supposed to hide. What happened was super public. People knew us, and they knew us in a kind of large scale of different business arenas. So the story spread, and the messages kept coming in from strangers. And what I started to put together was, well, something has to come out of this. Something in me has to emerge that can be in service of others. And that was when I started to play with this idea of purpose, which in psychological terms is often called post-traumatic growth. This idea that you live a life of greater meaning, gratitude, and fulfillment, not in spite of what's happened to you, but because of it. It is something that if you can frame whatever you go through, because 70% of us will experience some kind of trauma in life, and I hate that statistic. I hate it. But I like to twist it around and say that if we have the privilege of living long enough and the privilege of loving hard enough, then we have the privilege to witness the human experience. And if we can compose ourselves to bear witness and also continue to propel ourselves to move forward, then we win, right? We win. The truth of trauma is that it brings you to your knees. And trauma can mean a lot of different things for a lot of people. Sometimes it's as simple as struggling with generic mental health issues, right? Sometimes it's a significant event. Sometimes it's been an ongoing childhood that turns into an adulthood of negative patterns, right? But we also know that people that experience trauma suffer. and they continue to suffer, and they often extend their suffering. And there comes in the stages of grief. People have heard about this. It's tossed around a lot as, oh, well, it's not linear and therefore it's not valid. Actually, it's the most accepted grief theory in modern psychology. But what most people don't understand is that one of the stages is acceptance. So you hear, how can this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? No, it didn't really happen. But what if I had done this? And what if I had done that? What I'm speaking out loud is really all of those stages: bargaining, denial, anger, etc. And it's normal. However, the faster you can shift yourself into acceptance, radical acceptance, the idea of it is what it is, the faster I adopted, and I continue to struggle with it, the idea of what my true identity is here and now, my reality, is the faster I move forward. Now, coming from my film background, I want to quickly share what, 2 years of a very expensive graduate school yielded, which is the basic hero plotline. So in the most famous screenplay structure, you have Robert McKee's structure, which is essentially a few significant plot points, right? The inciting incident, in my case, my husband's death. The inciting incident is not my husband's death. It's actually all of the things leading up to it. It's my childhood, it's our marriage, it's our kids, it's our tech business blowing up, right? The plot point one, the trauma, was his death. That's when my whole life changed, right? In the rom-com version, it's when the girl meets the guy, right? Now, the midpoint is when, despite the shit hitting the fan, it just got worse, right? That's when I was faced with my reality. Oh my God, we were active investors. We invested in over 100 different companies. Holy crap, like, how do I manage that? How do I manage all the bills and all the annoying things he used to do? How do I raise grieving children, right? I don't have any experience with that. How do I take care of myself in order to properly raise grieving children? How do I take care of this house, which I want to contain as a constant in our lives? And the list went on and on and on and on, right? And then plot point two, that's the battle scene. That's when the hero really becomes the hero, right? That's the big moment. That's the thing that we're all working towards. And everything from that midpoint, that holy crap, it's really, really bad moment, to that point where you win the fight, is growth, is drive, is asking and answering the same questions over and over again, and pitching yourself in this position, in this tent of acceptance as you face your reality and continue to march forward. And this timeline doesn't have to just correspond to personal experiences. This is also the timeline of every business I have ever known. So the way I divide it in terms of the seasons of healing, the first season is survive. You literally just have to survive. For me, that was year one. Physically, emotionally, socially, organizationally, I figured out that I needed to survive. I could barely get the organizational part done in my first year. But at year one, I snapped myself into reality. I said, let's go, open the mail. The next season is revive. That's like your spring. That's when you start to process and say, well, who am I now? What do I actually want out of my life? How am I going to get it? Why? Why do I want this? And the next season, that's probably where I'm at right now, is the thrive season. The thrive season is all about anchoring yourself in your values, right? So my values are health. That means, how do I physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually take care of myself on a regular basis and prioritize that? The next value is wealth, not just the money in the bank, but really the organizational components of how you make your life move forward, right? And also the wealth that you feel in your life in terms of the friends that you surround yourself with, in terms of the way that you spend your time. And love, right? So love is about creating that connection with other people, the people that you care about, the people that feed your soul. And then lastly, purpose. right? So when I circle through those 4 and whatever they mean to me on any given day, that's how I decide to take my first step out of bed. And then did I skip backwards? Then this season is drive. Drive is when you have answered those questions, but you still begin to stumble, right? Because you can say, I want this, but getting there isn't so simple and smooth, right? So what you start to say is, all right, I realize my reality. This is the truth. This is what I'm dealing with now, right? I'm resolving, I'm making decisions. We're not going to overly turn it over and over in our minds, right? Oftentimes you go through something and you do not let it go. I mean, us women can talk things to death. Thank God. Thank God for each other, right? I often was asked in the beginning before I got my therapist, it's like, are you in therapy? Well, no, I have 50 women that are brilliant surrounding me that will listen to me any time of day and night. And that was everything for me, because by saying the same thing 10 different ways, I found new truths, right? And that was my process. However, you do not want to indulge that eternally. And I use the word indulge not because I want to discount the importance of it, but because that overthinking will get you stuck. And there will come a point where you say, no, I'm done. I want to make decisions and I want to move forward. And if I have to do that over and over again, I will. But I'm capable of making those decisions. And then I'm capable of releasing my pain, my anger, my disappointment, my sadness. I'm capable of releasing that I do not have control over everything or of what's happened to me. And then I'm going to repeat it. And that really is what driving forward is all about. That is how we live in acceptance. And it's not working. Oh, there we go. And lastly, purpose, our 4 values. Back to health, wealth, love. Why is it going? Okay. All right. And so lastly, this is just because I'm, into like numbers matching and perfect little squares. The way I think about it is grief always comes with growth. And when you can meet it with grit and grace, you can move through it. And so what I was thrilled to talk with all of you about is because there's this thing that I just released I'm super proud of. I think it could help anybody wherever they are in their journey. And it is a self-talk script with 10 questions that will change your life. It's a freebie on my website. So if you go to KarineNissim.com, you can download that when the first pop-up comes up for your email, and you'll get it in your inbox. And take your time to answer it. And it's basically like a Mad Libs version for your life. By the time you're done answering these questions, you have a 1 sheet that you can just put on your fridge. You can say to yourself, you can memorize, and you can change how you frame your own thoughts and how you talk to yourself, because that very subtle shift will change everything in your life. Because what ends up happening when you go through horrible times or anything that's challenging is you will be seduced by the negative. And what you want to do is pull yourself into the positive. So I encourage all of you to download my self-talk script on KarineNissim.com. I also have an event coming up on December 9th. It is a healing collective where I'll bring together an amazing therapist who specializes in women's challenges as they move through life and finding their identity despite the different things that come up for us. And also an amazing trauma healing therapist who I've come to know and really respect, and a few other amazing women. So I encourage all of you to attend that event. You can find at Luma/Karine, Karine. And please stay in touch with me and download my app. I would love for you guys to join our community. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
Emily.
you, Karine. I'm going to come up here for a minute because we have a couple questions
Yes,
we
great.
batched for you, and I wanted to just chat with you. I know we haven't known each other for very long. We connected actually at an event earlier this year that was hosted by a woman that was a speaker at one of our events previously, which, if anything, you guys just goes to show the power of networking and not being afraid to put yourself out there. I think we were seated next to each other at like a ladies' luncheon for women in finance. It was a JP Morgan Empowered Daughters.
Where I proceeded to interrogate her on everything.
She's like, "Who are you? You're like 10 years younger than everyone here. What are you doing here? What's your name? Tell me your life story." And I was like, "Ooh, a girl after my own heart. Like, let's chat." And so then we stayed in touch. We exchanged contact information. We went for a walk on the Miami Beach boardwalk. We had coffee. We could have kept talking for like probably 10 more hours.
We're still talking.
We're still
It's
talking.
still happening.
Every time we get together, I'm like, wait, I don't want to leave. We have more to talk
Literally
about.
went to a crypto event and I was like, Emily, why are you not here?
She-
Aren't you supposed to be at every crypto event that's ever existed?
She like full on
What am I doing
FaceTimed me
here?
a couple weeks ago and was like, "Do you know these people? Like, they're a crypto, Emily. Like, you know them, right?" I'm like, "Where are you?" Also, I kind of want to come. So anyway, I'm so glad you were able to make it here. I know you have such a busy schedule with the 3 kids and just all the businesses. So first of all, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being here and sharing your story. I know it's not an easy one to share, but I think it was really important for me to have you come and share your message and your story, because I do think it's incredibly powerful, and it really influenced and impacted me, and just being able to share that with our community we have here, and just continue to spread the message and the love, and the art of reinvention is not a linear path. Life is not a linear path. And
No, it's not.
it really all comes down to, how do you navigate the obstacles that you're thrown, and what kind of tools do you have in your toolbox, or the tools that are the people in your life and those resources, you come to rely on. All right. So that leads me to our first question. So, what was going through your mind when you decided to build again? Obviously, DogVacay was a hugely influential part of your life. It wasn't just a co-founder, it was your husband, your life partner, it was everything. How did you know you were ready to build again?
To be honest, building DayNew became my purpose. It became the reason, beyond taking care of my kids, that I got out of bed and said, well, I'm creating something and it's going to help other people. And I know it will. And that was, I said always, even if nothing comes of this, it will be my bridge from despair to my new self. And it really inspired me in that way.
Yeah. No, I think it makes a lot of sense sometimes. And I think that's kind of been the theme of the day today. Is we've talked to a lot of different entrepreneurs, and I would say every single person that we've talked to today didn't know where they were going when they started. They were just following some inner voice, some intuition that said, I need to build something. I need to do something. I don't know how I'm going to make money. I might not know. I don't know if it's going to work, but I know I need to do something, and I'm going to pull this thread. And then what ends up happening is it opens other doors and heals part of you.
And I want to say something else in particular to this audience, that I had created a business before I met my husband, and then I created one with him, and then another one that succeeded. And then while being married, I was able to start another one that I didn't talk about, but it was a shirt with a mask attached during the early pandemic called Schmask. We got on the Today Show. It was a super fun, splashy little moment, and it was really my thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't with him. It was me.
Mm-hmm.
And that felt nice as a mom, also juggling 3 babies and stepping away from this kind of like partnership role.
Yeah.
And then when he passed, I knew that I had to show my children a version of me working while also holding this whole life, right? But I didn't know what that would look like. And so really, honestly, the message I want to share is that, partner or no partner, wherever you are in life, sometimes the experiment of showing yourself that you can do a thing all by yourself is extremely worthwhile.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have the intention of scaling. You don't even have to have the intention of making money. You can simply have the intention of completing something. And it can start with starting something. Like, I just started a novel, right? And I'm like thrilled with myself that I wrote 20 pages. but I wanted to tell the sexy lives of widows, right? And I came up with all these stories based out of all these tragedies that I'd heard, right? Because I said, well, this is a fun thing for me to allow my brain to noodle on at night. This is what I want to be thinking about when I'm in yoga class, not necessarily some of the harder business things that I always think about, you know? And I think that that is a kind of self-care, finding different avenues for you. So some of you have regular corporate jobs, but have aspirations to start businesses. Some of you are entwined in roles either with partners, boyfriends, husbands, or, corporate environments that feel like you're shackled. But the truth is, you can carve your own niche. You can make your own little path as this bridge to this next best version of yourself.
And I think that's what it is. It's like this constant desire for personal growth and self-improvement, and not necessarily having like an end goal or a monetization element there. Like that does come down the road, but it's how are you constantly becoming a slightly better version of yourself and satisfying some curiosity or deep need.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get really, existential, the consciousness of it all is that we are here for a short time, and we want it to matter. And what matters to you ultimately is not necessarily a number in a bank or a title, but the good times, the connections, the experiences, feeling like your legacy has made an impact on the world in a positive way. And so you find your values. And I think following your passion, tapping into that creative magic inside of you is so beautiful and liberating, and really like can be transcending for you. That, a lot of people do a lot of plant therapy and a lot of kind of interesting things now. But the truth is, it's inside of you, right? And so finding the way to tap into that magic, it comes in business often, right? It comes when you're driving the car and you're forced to focus on nothing but the road ahead, right? And so really creating a fertile ground for you to tap into that energy inside of yourself.
Okay, this leads me to my next question. Since we're going the spiritual route, how do you hold on to groundedness while still running disciplined, scalable businesses? What principles help you make decisions with purpose when purpose and performance don't align perfectly?
So listen, I think the benefit of getting to my upper 40s is that I am more self-aware than ever. Where I used to be the person that talks more and wants to hear myself speak, I shut up sometimes. I force myself to shut up and just take it in. And what that allows me to do is be more thoughtful and to release myself from this like pressure chamber that is constantly putting external expectations or optics on my journey and process. And so what that really means is sometimes good things take time. Be okay with that. Be okay with inching forward and not running and racing all the time. Because if you can make those incremental inches actually add up to something because of your consistency, because of your dedication to a singular focus, that is the most grounding thing for me, because that is accepting of my reality, right? In my Maslow hierarchy of needs, like my core need is to care for my children in a competent way where they can live lives that they can thrive in despite what they've experienced, right? It's to position them on their own hero's journey. That is my number one need. But then right above that is, how do I take care of myself in order to honor that responsibility? And then everything underneath says, well, realistically, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for me to create time that doesn't exist. And so therefore, I'm going to work smarter. I'm going to lean on support when I can. I'm going to make small moves. I'm going to continue to inch forward. I'm going to let myself think when I need to, and I'm going to be okay with that. And then when it's time to run, I run. heels on and everything. I'm running. Diaper bags in tow. I'm running, right? Sometimes it comes in the middle of the night and it's all getting done. You know, you look for that window and then you move because you've taken the time to process and develop and fine tune your vision and your purpose, right? I got a little pep in my step. You know, I've fallen and gotten up again over and over and over again. My father passed this past year. And I think in the past, I probably would have been like, and like, how do I, where am I supposed to go? Right. And then with this, it wasn't that I didn't feel the loss. It was that I said, this loss is going to be right next to me as I continue in my day. You know, I've had 2 friends' daughters pass, you know, in the past year in significant traumas. I'm in perimenopause, which is really a mental fuck show. So, you know, like life keeps moving. And like that's the thing that I'm excited about talking about more than anything is that they don't prepare us. You know, they prepare you to get married. They prepare you to have kids. They prepare you to be a babe in a bikini. They prepare you to go get your job and be a career girl. But they don't really prepare you for what life actually is. And yes, mine got interrupted in a very specific way early on. And it doesn't have to look like that for other people, right? And maybe you glide through and you glide. And I wish it for all of us, right? But growing up is real. And so when I started to see that, well, the hits keep coming, but now I'm just like, bam, bam, bam. Like I'm moving, I'm just doing it. I'm dealing, I'm pivoting, I'm moving around it. I'm finding my moments to laugh. I'm finding my moments to make fun of myself. I'm self-aware about who I am. I will always be 20 minutes late. Sorry, not sorry. Like I will probably forget your name. It's not that I've forgotten you. You know, I care about what I care about, and that is a constant, and that is the thing that I can clearly see. That inching forward is me thriving, right? That doing this and then jumping into the car and racing to North Miami for like 6 back-to-back basketball games where like my tush gets numb on bleachers is like me thriving, you know, and then meeting girlfriends for sushi tonight and then cuddling with my daughter in the morning. That's me thriving. And I am so grateful. I'm so grateful that I get to do these things. And I think this is probably our last moment together here and now. So I'll leave you with this. I want you to fall in love with the grind of your life. Fall in love with the challenges that are thrown your way. Seduce yourself with the opportunity to grow through it, to move through it, and to find the new version of yourself in what you've been going through, because that will birth the sparkliest, most fabulous version of yourself. And that is what I wish for you guys.
You make me tear up right now.
And I want to say to you, it is a testament to you, your character, your purpose, your drive, and the thing that is like moving you, that you have pulled together such a beautiful group of women who are here on their weekend trying to develop themselves and hear the stories of other women. So thank you to you.
Thank you. Thank you guys all for being here. Thank you for being here.